Okay, so in this video, we're going to talk about American Airlines stock. So American Airlines ended up reporting earnings on April 30th for the first quarter, and the stock has been plummeting ever since these earnings, guys. So they had a really bad quarterly report. So I just want to show you guys a quick article on CNBC, kind of going into depth in the report, and then I'm going to give you a potential argument on why the stock could even fall to as low as $1. So please thumbs this video up if you enjoy this content and keep watching it to the end so I show you guys what I think about my price target. Okay, so let's get right into it, guys. CNBC reported American Airlines loses 2.2 billion in the first quarter as coronavirus rolled air travel. So guys, give you the quick gist of it. American Airlines posted its first quarterly loss since 2013 as bookings dried up because of coronavirus pandemic. And it says the company is burning through $70 billion a day in the second quarter. So basically, their revenue dropped 20% from a year earlier. And this has been the worst loss since 1998 for the company. And it also says American, like other airlines, is facing a sharp decline in passengers because of coronavirus. U.S. air travel volumes have dropped about 95% in the recent weeks from a year earlier as travelers stay home because of concerns of virus and shelter-in-place orders. So it also says that never before has our airline or our industry faced such a significant challenge. Doug Parker, American's CEO, and the company has raced to cut costs, slashing flights, freezing, hiring, and retiring some jetliners early. In the second quarter, expected to burn through $70 million a day. So, guys, a really tough time for American Airlines, and they actually had one of the worst balance sheets out of all the airline stocks. So that's one of the reasons why you're seeing this stock plummet. I told you guys to be pretty careful about this. In some earlier videos, I said if you had bought it around $8 or $9, it would have been kind of smart to kind of sell it into the earlier strength, because a lot of these earnings reports were going to be very bad, and I expect things to be even worse for American in the second quarter, because basically the whole airline industry is closed for all of April. So I mean the numbers were already really bad, and people were still flying through January and most of February. So now it could potentially be the entire second quarter basically earned very little, if any, revenue. So it says American said it can access 10.6 billion in federal payroll grants and loans under the 2.2 trillion dollar coronavirus relief package Congress approved last month. So guys, that deadline has closed. It closed on Friday. So that will be all of the funding that can go towards different airline stocks and things like that. So let's take a look at the actual earnings release and go a little bit more. Okay, so you can find all of this information under American Airlines investor relations. So first quarter net loss was $2.2 billion, or $5.26 a share. So this stock has absolutely been crushed, and that's one of the reasons why you're seeing this huge drop off. A lot of people basically took profits, and now they're selling because this company, if there is an airline that's probably going to go bankrupt, it's American Airlines. This company is absolutely been devastated by the coronavirus, and they're losing a ton of money, and their balance sheet is just an absolute mess. So if we just go a little bit deeper and go into depth in some things, I want to talk about some of the numbers. So as you can see here, let's go down to some of the numbers. So this is what I want to talk about. So basically, we're looking for this company to not go bankrupt, because right now, 95% of flights suspended. We need them to basically stay in business. So if you're buying this stock, you're not really looking for profits right now. You're looking for to keep the doors open in the long term. So let's look at some of the things that they've done. So I mentioned earlier how they have about $6 billion of liquidity. They attained the right to access $10.6 billion of financial assistance. And they also have suspended its capital return program, including share repurchases and dividends. So if some of you guys out there owned American Airlines stock for the dividend, be sure to take a mental note that that dividend has been suspended. A lot of the websites like Yahoo Finance and Google and stuff, they still are showing a dividend for the stock. So just make sure that realize that the stock will not be paying a dividend for a quite some time. So with a $70 million cash burn in the second quarter, man, it's going to be really tough for basically them to stay afloat. It says based on the current forecast, the company expects to have approximately 11 billion of liquidity at the end of the second quarter. So if the company's burning through 70 million, we really don't know exactly when the global airline industry is going to rebound. Most likely it's going to be at least 1 to 2 years. You could see this stock go a lot lower. So let's look at some of the, I'm going to show you guys the actual financial results here. Okay, so these are the quarterly numbers, and here's 2019, 2020. So as you can see here, total revenue was down over 20%. And as you can see here, they took a billions and billions of dollars and losses, so 2.2 billion and losses, and $5.26 a share. So now let's look at some of the things that I wanted to talk about. Now these are basically statistics that are unique to the airline industry. So there's a couple of key numbers that I like to look at when I'm looking at this. The first thing I like to look at is obviously you want to take a look at revenue passenger miles and available seat miles. So those are basically the two key metrics that I'm looking at. Revenue passenger miles is probably the most commonly used metric to kind of look at airline stocks and things like that. And the fact that revenue is going to be down so much, it's just going to be hard for this stock to really rebound. The stock had already been down a ton in the past. I want to show you guys what I'm talking about. Okay, so the stock had been on a decline since January. It was around $56, and now it's down more than basically 85%. So, I mean, the stock was already basically, the company was already in trouble from just basically, not being a very strong airline company and things like that. And now we have a precipitous drop. So I noticed that this is one of the most highly traded stocks on Robinhood. It's actually the second most highest traded on Friday on the market close, the latest Friday after they reported earnings. And I'm just curious as to why people are actually buying this stock, because I think it's actually one of the worst stocks that you can own now. Most likely American Airlines should look for a merger or something like that. And one of the reasons why is simply if we take a look a little bit closer, I want to show you guys, these are the breakdowns of basically domestic Latin America and things like that. But if we keep going down, okay, so this is really what I want to look at when I say the balance sheet is completely a mess. So if we take a look at American Airlines balance sheet for the latest quarter, we can see that the company holds very little cash, about $470 million worth of cash, and they do have some short-term investments and things like that. So around 3 billion in short-term investments. But let's take a look at some of these key numbers that I really like to look at. So we take a look at the retained earnings. It's actually negative. So this is really bad, guys. A company's stock usually follows the retained earnings. It's one of the things that Warren Buffett really believes in when he's looking at companies. And you want to see that number continue to increase. So the number is negative. So out of all the years that American Airlines has simply been in business, they have basically lost money. There's no retained earnings, which means that this stock is on the way down and could be going a lot lower. Another key number that I want to show you guys is simply the total stockholders deficit. So basically, stockholders are in debt, have lost out of all of the retained earnings and losses and things like that, are in the red about 2.6 billion. So if you actually, now when you're looking at a balance sheet, assets equals shareholders equity plus liabilities. But the liabilities are so great. You've got 19 billion in current liabilities and 42 billion in non-current liabilities. That's over 60 billion dollars in short-term and long-term debt with 470 million dollars in cash. This balance sheet is way out of whack, and this company is in serious trouble. I don't see the upside in American Airlines stock at all. I just think, why would you put your money in such a risky company when you have better positioned companies? You have Carnival, which is in a Carnival stock, which is in a similar situation, was much better. You've got Boeing, which actually didn't take the government bailout. They just issued their own bonds. They're in a much better position. And then, of course, you've got other stocks that are still going to probably go higher over the long term, like Netflix and Roku. So for me, dealing with American Airlines stock, it's simply opportunity cost. I just don't see why I want to own a company that's drowning in debt and has so little cash, and that's losing $70 million a day. And travel is not going to bounce back anytime soon. They've already announced lots of restrictions, like having to purchase seats next to you, having to wear a mask. This could take years to correct. So where do I think American Airlines stock is going in the short term? Well, there's actually an interesting article I want to show you guys. Okay, so it says American Airlines Group received a big blow from Wall Street on Friday as Evercore ISI analyst Dwayne, if I'm pronouncing this right, Piffingtonworth, slashed his price target on the Fort Worth, Texas-based carrier from $10 to $1. That would imply a 92% drop in stock price. The airline, which entered the coronavirus fuel crisis with the weakest balance sheet in the group, may not see meaningful recovery in the share price. As American, the entire industry tries to raise additional liquidity, Evercore estimates its net debt will far exceed revenue by the end of the year. So, guys, this is really crazy what's going on with this stock, but I would expect it to continue to drop a lot more in the near term simply because the balance sheet is just it's so bad and the revenue is basically been cut off, like literally. These travel stocks have been hurt the worst by this epidemic. So it says parts of America's earnings call yesterday struck out as out of sync with the severity of the crisis, such as unwillingness to put a long-term network restructuring on the table. Equity investors may not be the target audience for these earnings calls anymore. So now that's an interesting point as well, and something that I want to make about these companies. These companies don't want to, they're underestimating how bad it is, especially these airline stocks. Airports around the world are empty, and people have put off traveling. So a lot of people have put off traveling in general until next year. And these companies have a lot of, working capital requirements, going through $70 million a day. This is not where you want to be looking for long-term value. So for me, American Airlines stock is a complete sell. I've been mentioning that time and time again. If you were going to trade this stock, please get out. I told you guys earlier in a video I posted earlier to try to get out at around $14 or $15. Do not hold this stock for the long term. This stock is a sell. This is not where you want to be parking your money. You don't want to be catching a falling knife, which is exactly the situation we're dealing with here. You want to look for stocks that are beaten down but not broken companies. So stocks like Apple, Boeing, things like that. These are companies that are just going through temporary problems, but American Airlines has more, a lot more distress and a lot more problems in the future. So it's going to be very interesting on where this stock goes. So for me personally, I think the best thing to do to be short this stock, or you can buy put options as well. And I need to really record a video on put options. I've been meaning to do that for quite some time. So please subscribe to my channel for more updates on American Airlines stock and other airline stocks in the industry. I upload videos to this channel every day, so if you smash that red subscribe button, you'll receive free updates whenever I post a new video. So that's it for now, guys. Hope you enjoyed this video and take care.